The boutique smelled of jasmine and leather. Its marble floors gleamed, untouched by the outside world, and the mannequins stood tall in their $1,000 fabrics. Galynn Patricia Brady, dressed in a soft lavender blouse and slacks, walked in with a hopeful smile. She wasn't here to impress anyone. She was here for her granddaughter's graduation, a special dress, something memorable. That was all. She paused in front of a delicate cream gown displayed on a gold rack, running her fingers gently along the silk. A young sales associate, no older than 23, eyed her with mild confusion. "Can I help you?" she asked, tone clipped. "Yes, dear," Galynn replied warmly. "I was hoping to look at this one in a size 6. It's for my granddaughter." The associate didn't move. Instead, she cast a glance across the room, where 2 other employees stood whispering. One of them chuckled. "I think we might not have that size," the associate said flatly, not even checking the stock. "This particular collection is rather exclusive." Galynn blinked. "Oh, I don't mind waiting if you could look in the back." A pause. The associate's smile was tight, rehearsed. "Ma'am, perhaps you'd be more comfortable at somewhere like Eden's Closet. It's a bit more, practical." The words hit harder than they should have. Galynn wasn't dressed like the boutique's usual crowd, perhaps, but she was clean, neat, and carried herself with quiet grace. She smiled, nodded, and whispered a soft, "Thank you anyway," before turning to leave. She didn't cry. Not in front of them. Before we dive deeper into this incredible true story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more gripping narratives that shine a light on the moments that matter. Outside, the sunlight wrapped around her like a blanket. She sat on a bench near a planter full of white roses, her purse resting on her lap. A couple passed by, chatting loudly about their weekend in Napa. Galynn looked down at her hands. Steady, strong hands that had raised a household, supported a son through unimaginable pressure, and held his face in victory and defeat. She had never expected special treatment. But to be dismissed like that, it stung. Not for the insult, but for what it represented. The vanishing kindness in places where it used to live. She pulled out her phone and texted Tom. "Hey, sweetheart, no luck at the boutique. I'll find something tomorrow. Hope your meeting went well. Love you always." She didn't mention the slight. Why would she? He had enough on his plate. She didn't want pity. What she wanted, what she had always wanted, was dignity. Across the street, a teenager named Lacey had noticed everything. She had filmed the brief exchange, not out of malice, but confusion. Why were they treating an older woman like that? She didn't know who Galynn was, just that something about it felt wrong. She uploaded the clip to her small TikTok account with the caption, "They really kicked out this sweet lady, shame." The video would sit quietly for a few hours before exploding. Back inside the boutique, the associates were laughing again. Vanessa Alston, the boutique's owner, watched the floor from her office window. She saw Galynn leave. She knew exactly who she was, and she didn't care. Galynn, unaware of the digital spark just lit in her name, walked toward the parking garage with her head high. Her steps were slow but steady, the way they had always been. There was still a dress to find, still love to give. Tomorrow would be another day. The video barely made a ripple at first. Lacey's small following meant limited traction, but it didn't stay that way. Within hours, a wave of comments started trickling in. Why is no one talking about how she was treated? She looked so kind. What's wrong with people? Anyone recognize her? Then came the reposts. A larger fashion account picked it up, calling the boutique's behavior the perfect example of quiet cruelty. Others added their own commentary, drawing attention to the generational disrespect. But it wasn't until Riley Chase stumbled across the video that everything began to shift. Riley had built her reputation on fast scoops and viral takes. She was a digital journalist, known more for her speed than her depth. But when she paused on Galynn's face in the video, something tugged at her. She recognized her, not immediately, but enough to dig. A reverse image search confirmed it. Galynn Patricia Brady, Tom Brady's mother. The headline formed in her mind before she could stop it. Boutique humiliates NFL legend's mother in viral snub. But she didn't publish it, not yet. Tom, meanwhile, was in Montana at a private retreat, preparing for an investor summit. His phone buzzed non-stop, but he ignored it until one particular notification cut through, a message from his longtime friend, Max. "Hey man, you seen this? Looks like your mom at that boutique on Vine, check it." He watched the clip once, then again. It was unmistakable. That was her. Tom froze. He called her. "Mom," he said gently when she answered. "How was your day?" "Oh, it was fine, honey," she replied. "Didn't find the dress, but there's always tomorrow." He hesitated. "You went to that boutique on Vine?" A pause. "I did," she said quietly. "Did something happen?" Another pause, longer this time. "Nothing worth troubling you over, really." But he knew the tone, knew the restraint in her voice, the strength she always tried to wear like armor. He'd seen it when she battled cancer, when the cameras were off, when the world wasn't watching. "You sure?" he pressed. "I'm sure," she said softly. "I just didn't fit the picture they wanted." "That's all." Tom stared at the horizon, his fists clenched at his sides. Back in Los Angeles, the comments on the video had turned into debates. Some insisted the boutique had every right to curate its image. Others were outraged, accusing the store of elitism and ageism. "I don't care who she is," one user wrote. "This is how we treat our elders now?" Galynn sat at home that evening, curled up with a crossword and a cup of tea. She hadn't checked her phone in hours. The storm was growing outside, but inside she was calm. She'd always taught her children that silence was often stronger than noise, but silence didn't stop hurt. At her core, Galynn felt something shift. Not anger, not even sadness, but the sharp edge of disappointment. She wasn't humiliated because she was refused service. She was hurt because the refusal came laced with disdain, with a smugness that suggested she didn't matter. And that was the part that stayed. In her kitchen drawer was an old photograph of Tom, no older than 7, holding a football almost as big as his chest. She had framed it the day he told her he wanted to be the best, not famous, just great. And she had vowed that day to always protect that dream. Now it seemed it was his turn. Tom Brady didn't speak publicly, not yet. But his silence was heavy, the kind that made people lean in. The clip had now passed 3 million views. Riley Chase, after hours of deliberation, published the article. The headline was measured but unflinching. The woman they dismissed was Tom Brady's mother. What happens next matters. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Podcasts, morning talk shows, and comment sections exploded. People demanded answers. Celebrities weighed in. Some defended the boutique, warning against cancel culture hysteria. But most sided with Galynn, praising her composure, mourning a world where kindness seemed outdated. Riley's article didn't just reveal Galynn's identity. It painted a portrait, a mother who had stood quietly in the shadows of stadiums, who had never asked for the spotlight, but whose influence shaped one of the greatest athletes of all time. The piece was rich with detail, including quotes from archived interviews and public moments where Tom had openly credited her for his discipline, humility, and resilience. The response was overwhelming. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Vanessa Arleston watched it all unfold from behind the boutique's locked doors. Her staff had stopped posting on social media. Foot traffic dropped by half overnight. Someone had taped a note to the boutique's window. "Kindness is never out of style." She poured herself a drink and paced the floor, rereading the article. She hadn't expected this. She thought the incident would fade like all the others, but she had underestimated one thing. Galynn hadn't needed to speak. Her silence had said everything. That morning, Tom flew into Los Angeles without alerting anyone, not even his team. Dressed in jeans and a baseball cap, he walked the streets alone. He didn't want an entourage. He didn't want noise. He wanted to see it for himself. The boutique looked different in person, smaller, colder. He pushed the door open. The bell chimed. Vanessa looked up, eyes widening. He didn't say his name. He didn't need to. "Mr. Brady," she began, standing. I'm not here for an apology," he interrupted, calm but firm. "I just want you to understand what you lost." She blinked, lips parting. "My mother is the most dignified person I know," he continued. "She's been through chemo, surgeries, and stood in the cold watching me play games where no one noticed her. She's never asked for recognition. She doesn't need it. But when someone like her walks into your store and you see only what she's wearing, you lose more than a customer." Vanessa swallowed hard, unsure whether to speak. "You lost a moment to show grace," he said, "and the world saw it." He turned and walked out. Back in Boston, Galynn sipped her tea and tried to ignore the ringing phone. Friends, strangers, former teammates of Tom, they all reached out. She wasn't angry. She was simply overwhelmed by the noise. But when her son called that evening, she answered. "You didn't have to go," she said gently. "I know," he replied, "but I needed to." She sighed. "Don't fight for me, Tom. I'm fine." "I'm not fighting," he said softly. "I'm reminding people who you are." Later that night, Riley sat at her desk, watching the comments roll in. For the first time in a long while, she felt like a journalist, not a chaser of clicks, but a seeker of truth. She opened a blank document and typed the title, "Dignity in the Age of Disdain." This wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something larger. The storm didn't pass. It shifted. What began as outrage turned into reflection. Talk shows now debated not just the boutique's behavior, but the culture that made it acceptable. The obsession with surface, the disregard for quiet grace. Galynn, after much persuasion, agreed to one interview. Not for herself, but to redirect the conversation. She chose a local Boston radio station, one that had followed her family for decades. Her voice was soft but steady. "I don't hold anger," she said. "That's never been my way. I was raised to treat everyone with dignity, no matter their status. What happened was unfortunate, but it's not new. It happens every day, to people who aren't known, who don't have a last name that catches attention." She paused. "I didn't speak up because I needed justice. I spoke because too many stay quiet when hurt. And sometimes silence enables more hurt." The clip from her interview was shared millions of times. Viewers praised her humility, her refusal to fan the flames. In an age where everyone shouted, her calm was disarming. Meanwhile, Tom Brady made headlines with a move no one saw coming. In an exclusive interview, he announced a new partnership with a rising fashion label, Grace by Juno, founded by two women who had once worked in underrepresented communities and had built a reputation for timeless design with inclusive values. Tom explained his decision clearly. "My mother taught me that style is how you treat people, that real elegance isn't loud, it's consistent, kind, and confident. That's why I'm standing with a brand that honors that." The partnership announcement overshadowed every fashion headline that day. But it wasn't about revenge, it was about redirection. The new campaign, launching that week, featured real people, educators, nurses, grandmothers, wearing pieces from the line, accompanied by handwritten notes about the times they had felt invisible. It struck a nerve. Customers flooded Grace by Juno's website, purchasing not just dresses but the idea behind them. Social media erupted with a new hashtag, "Elegance is Respect." Back at the boutique, Vanessa watched the campaign unfold with a strange mix of envy and regret. She hadn't just lost business, she had missed a moment to grow. Her staff began quitting. A flagship designer pulled their line from her shelves. For the first time in years, Vanessa felt irrelevant. In another part of town, Riley Chase stood outside the same boutique, her recorder in hand. She had no intention of writing another hit piece. Instead, she was documenting what came next. "This isn't about a celebrity," she said into the mic. "It's about culture. It's about who we value and why. This story didn't go viral because someone famous was mistreated. It resonated because we've all seen it happen to someone we love, or to ourselves." For the first time in her career, Riley's inbox was full of gratitude instead of tips or corrections. Teachers, caretakers, and retirees wrote to her, sharing their own experiences of being dismissed, ignored, overlooked. That week, she signed a book deal. But the real reward was deeper. Her voice, once sharp and fast, had found purpose. She wasn't chasing storms anymore. She was tracing their roots. And across the country, people began to talk, in homes, in classrooms, in boardrooms, about how they showed respect. Not just to those in power, but to those who moved quietly through the world, expecting nothing but common courtesy. It was no longer just about a boutique. It was about all of us. Days passed. The frenzy began to slow, replaced by reflection, but one meeting still lingered in the shadows, waiting to unfold. Vanessa Alston stood in front of Galynn's modest home, holding a bouquet of lilies. Her palms were damp, her throat dry. She had rehearsed what to say, then discarded every version. When the door opened, Galynn greeted her not with surprise, but with calm eyes that had seen storms greater than this. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Galynn said gently. "I wasn't sure I should," Vanessa replied, voice trembling. They sat in the sunroom, quiet at first. Vanessa looked around. Framed photos, handmade crafts, a well-loved Afghan draped over the couch. No grandeur, just grace. "I'm not here to defend what happened," Vanessa said finally. "I can't, but I came to say I'm sorry. Not because the world is watching, because I watched myself, and I didn't like what I saw." Galynn studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you." There was no dramatic embrace, no speech, just a shared silence, honest and unburdened. Forgiveness wasn't approval, it was release. When Vanessa left, she felt lighter, though the path ahead was still steep. That same evening, Galynn and Tom sat together at the kitchen table. She handed him an old photo, one he hadn't seen in years. It was from his high school graduation, both of them smiling, arms wrapped tight. He studied it, then looked up. "You always showed up," he said quietly. "And you always noticed," she replied. There was nothing more to add. Some truths didn't need repetition. Elsewhere, Riley Chase held her first book draft in her hands. Dignity in the Age of Disdain was raw, intimate, and unapologetically human. She had traveled across the country, collecting stories inspired by Galynn's moment. What she found were patterns, quiet dismissals, silent humiliations, and the dignity people clung to in spite of it all. Galynn's name appeared only once, in the dedication. "To those who walk with grace, even when no one's looking." Tom's fashion campaign flourished. Grace by Juno opened 2 new storefronts, each one designed with wide aisles, welcoming staff, and a policy. Every customer matters. They didn't need a slogan. Their service spoke for itself. As for the boutique on Vine, it remained open, but dimmer. A new manager came in. Training changed, but its soul, once shaped by exclusion, took time to reshape. In the end, this wasn't the story of a celebrity scandal. It was the story of a woman who was quiet in power and unshakable in principle, who turned away from a door slammed shut and chose, instead, to leave it open behind her. Galynn never wanted the spotlight, but when it came, she stood in it with composure, not to shine, but to reflect something more important: respect, humility, strength. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We bring you real emotional narratives that matter, stories of quiet heroes and moments that move the world. And if you want to continue this journey, click the video on your screen now. You won't want to miss what happened next in Tom Brady's family journey. It's a chapter full of love, legacy, and the kind of character that never goes out of style.